Donald Trump has, at last, announced his withdrawal from the 2020 presidential race. What could have triggered such a move from the former president? Please watch till the end, as this news will brighten your day. Before we proceed, take a moment to subscribe to our channel by clicking the subscribe button below and turning on the notification bell to stay updated with the latest news from us. A long time ago, prior to Donald Trump's emergence from the early stages of the far-right political spectrum, before the abbreviated January 6th insurrection, and before the recent surge of conservative extremism, two well-known political analysts, Thomas Mann and Norman Ornstein, pinpointed the core issues in our increasingly dysfunctional American politics. Mann and Ornstein argued that the Republican Party had devolved into an extremist outlier, embracing extreme philosophies, disdainful of compromise, and dismissive of the legitimacy of their political opponents. 11 years later, the sorry state of American politics has somehow deteriorated further. Today, the GOP is less of a political party and more of an incoherent amalgamation of societal grievances, fear-driven ideologies, and the lowest common denominator of political slogans. Trump, despite his toxicity, is a symptom of the GOP's long-term descent into madness. Governance is no longer seen as a means to improve the lives of the American people, but rather as an opportunity to attack liberals and cater to the perceived grievances of the party's base. However, the GOP's disregard for governance is perhaps the least of its problems. By enthusiastically supporting Trump and his Make America Great Again movement, they have enabled a political force that is increasingly challenging the foundations of American democracy. McCarthy's political trajectory tells a regrettable tale. After January 6th, McCarthy, along with his political colleagues, had to hide from the rioting insurrectionists. In private, he expressed his frustration with Trump, saying, "I've had it with this guy." Yet, within a short span of time, he traveled to Trump's opulent estate in South Florida, humbly pledging allegiance to the GOP's orange deity. He attempted to obstruct a bipartisan congressional committee to investigate January 6th and aligned himself with conspiracy theorists who continued to spread falsehoods about the 2020 election. Recently, he yielded to the demands of conservative radicals and initiated an impeachment inquiry against Joe Biden, even though there is no evidence of the president committing any impeachable offenses. McCarthy, like countless other conservative figures over the past few years, realized that his political ambitions were directly tied to his support for Trump and the radical elements within the party that rallied behind him. In a classic Faustian bargain, he aligned himself with political forces that eventually turned against him. Trump's grip on the conservative faction is so strong that it borders on the pathological. Since spring, he has faced multiple indictments and been charged with 91 separate crimes. However, his approval ratings among conservatives have only solidified. He holds a commanding lead in the race for the party's presidential nomination. In the GOP, there is no future for an elected official who refuses to pledge unwavering loyalty to Trump. Liz Cheney, the most vocal and steadfast conservative critic of Trump after January 6th, was expelled from her leadership position in the GOP House. In 2022, a Trump-supporting conservative challenger defeated her by nearly 40 percentage points in a primary. Another principled conservative, former presidential candidate and current Utah Senator Mitt Romney, who twice voted to convict Trump in his impeachment trials, recently announced that he will not seek re-election. In interviews with The Atlantic's McKay Coppins, he described how his fellow conservative lawmakers publicly defended Trump's most egregious behavior, while privately mocking his ignorance and expressing frustration with his antics. Like other principled conservatives, Romney has chosen to exit, despite facing death threats for his criticisms of Trump and incurring an estimated daily expenditure of $55.00 on private security. The consequence is that the GOP's ranks are increasingly filled with individuals driven by boundless ambition and empty principles. For those hoping for a principled and mature conservative movement to emerge from this chaos, reconsider. The political incentives in the GOP are pushing relentlessly toward the extreme right. If there is any silver lining, it is this: for every conservative voter who supports Trump, there is a larger and ready constituency that vehemently opposes him. What is most remarkable about Trump is the consistency of his political support. If we compare his approval ratings from February 2020, before the COVID-19 pandemic ravaged the nation, to those in November 2020, when he ran for re-election, they remained largely unchanged. Since leaving office, his approval numbers have also remained steady. Americans have largely made up their minds about Trump, and the verdict is clear: they do not favor him. The last 3 U.S. elections have underscored this point. In what was largely seen as a rebuke to Trump, liberals gained over 40 seats and took control of the House of Representatives in the 2018 midterms. In 2020, he lost his re-election bid to Joe Biden by a margin of at least 7 million votes, which is 4 million more than he lost the popular vote to Hillary Clinton in 2016. In the 2022 midterms, liberals overperformed, gaining seats in the Senate and narrowly missing out on retaining the House of Representatives. So far this year, in many crucial races, liberals are outperforming expectations by a significant 11 percentage points. Some of this can be attributed to the Supreme Court's decision on abortion rights, but it is also a reaction to the extremism that Trump has fostered. Elections are unpredictable, and there is no guarantee that the divisive Biden will emerge victorious next November. However, looking at his recent polling, it's clear that while many liberals may want a different Democratic candidate, the logical choice for voters in November 2024 will be between Biden and a deeply flawed opponent, who could be a convicted criminal. This narrows one's focus, but regardless of whether Trump wins or loses, the issue of the Republican Party's polarization will persist long after he exits the political stage. Thanks for watching. Please share your thoughts on this in the comments section, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel.